means we get to bring up our next tournament, our next topic, which is going to be the War Within's first raid launched this week, which means the first Race to World First is launching as well this coming Tuesday. And of course, they've been prepping this for a while. They've been getting all this stuff ready because it's not something that just happens overnight. This is a competition where guilds race to clear the newest raid in World of Warcraft as fast as they possibly can on the hardest difficulty. So you've got big organizations that put a lot of time, a lot of energy behind this to make a great event, but to get that first kill on that last boss and do it on the hardest difficulty. We haven't seen Mythic Dungeons Mythic difficulty open up yet. We've seen Mythic Dungeons just open up. We've seen heroic tier raids open up as well as normal this past Tuesday. And that's kind of where we're at. But we're going to give you a whole big primer, everything to expect, what it is, what's going on with this competition. What is the Race to World First? Because honestly, Nick, I know you agree with this. This has been one of my favorite esports to watch. It's been one of the most exciting, and it gets a lot of viewers now. And some people might not be up on it. What's going on? So let's get into it. All right. Here's just a quick Wowhead article, World of Warcraft Blizzard blog post about what it is, basically announcing that the normal and heroic difficulties of raid are open. This kicked off this past Tuesday, and like I said, generally speaking, this esport, simply put, is who can beat the hardest difficulty first, who can kill the last boss of the hardest difficulty. Mythic is time gated. That's the hardest difficulty raid that starts this coming Tuesday. But the real race started months ago, weeks ago. Part of that means getting gear, getting money, preparing overall. And it's happening in the newest raid for the War Within, Nerubar Palace. I always have a hard time saying Nerubian type names and stuff. Nerubar Palace is the newest raid with 8 bosses, so a little bit on the lower end of things, and it's a pretty linear sort of race as far as the sequence of how bosses will go. So we're going to take a look here of what it is, difficulty, minimum, etc. We don't really need to worry about, but the raid bosses is specifically. Nick, are you still with us here? You're bouncing around.
I'm right here. I hate Skype. That's all. Anyway. Let's go. It has to be Skype. There's not, like, if internet's working, everything's working, it's the actual application. But I'm here, right in the corner, right over here, pointing at. I'm there. I'm here. I'm here for it.
All right, so we've got a total of 8 different bosses here in this raid. It's pretty sequential. You're going to be doing the first 4 bosses, and I believe the next 2 you have a choice between boss A or boss B. And they're just going to deliver all the different mechanics. But, you know, this is going to be one where one single boss can get in the way and become the roadblock for sure on it because of how sequential these bosses are initially. And some of the heroic mechanics are so far. Have you watched some of the streams have started so far with the preparations and the splits so far, Nick? Have you watched any of the heroic splits, any of the guilds prepared, any of the players building up their item sets for the different alts?
I only watch Max, bro. I only watch Max. That's it. I'm a Liquid stan through and through. I'm watching Max. Okay? I'm watching Liquid Max, baby. And he's going to win and beat the other guys, which is Echo. But no, I haven't watched any of them like gearing up. I'm super curious to know like exactly the monetary value of the gold that is about to get wasted. Like that's like one of my favorite stats in this. It's just like they just wasted $10 billion in gold. Like in gold.
That's one of the ways. That's one of the ways they literally will hire people to gold cap 40 different people, just make gold in enormous amounts to be able to spend it now. I think watching the splits, I was watching Max. Liquid is giving out $250K for a run, and it's prorated per boss. So if you're doing 6 bosses, I think it's something like 40,000 gold per boss. But if you fill their group and you help them beat a boss, they're giving you 40 grand per boss roughly in gold. So they've been building this this wallet for a while, and I'm pretty sure they've got designated people that will just make money for the guild. And I can't wait to hear how much they spend on, because we just hit Craftables week, we just hit M0 week, so it'd be really interesting to see how they're spending that money, where they're actually allotting that budget to.
Dude, seriously, I'm literally crunching numbers right now with like my brain just going off on a tangent. Like, I'm really curious. The other thing that I'm curious about too is that how come we don't have the alternate arts of these bosses? Because don't all these bosses have like a secondary art in this expansion?
I'm not sure of that.
Or not all of them, right? The spiders. Any spider has a secondary art, right? Of a crab.
No, you're talking about, the arachnophobia mode. It's a setting in the game. Because this is a spider themed zone. This is a spider themed raid. It's a setting in the game. So I don't think they're putting that press picture out. They're still selling the press as what they intended initially. But you can go crab mode and do the crab raid.
Yeah, it's way better, man. Everybody loves crabs.
I thought, just as like a little bit of a side joke, I really did think that, what if somebody had a crippling fear of crabs? They don't, they just keep them as spiders, of course. But, what if I had a fear of spiders and crabs? That like, I just can't play this game right now. They need a setting for that too.
Call Maury Povich, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's going to pull that Jerry Springer reference out on this one. But yeah, we have the 8 bosses here that's happening. Olgrax the Devourer, Bloodbound Horror, Sikran, Rashanan, Blood Twister, Ovi, Nexus Princess, and then we've got Anubarash, and I think there's a duel, the Silken Court, Anubarash, and Skyne Spinner, Takaz, and then Queen Ansarak, who's been like a little bit of a mini big bad through the first part of this expansion, leading to whatever's going to happen in this raid story-wise. But as far as what I've watched some of the prep and the splits for it. It does seem that Nexus Princess is going to be one of those bosses that are going to be a pain in the butt, really gum up the works and push people out, really stop the flow of stuff. But I think that at least there's an alt split. You can when you get to this part of the raid, you can choose to go to Brood Twister or you can go to Nexus Princess. But I don't know if you need to beat both of them to get to the next boss or the next 2 bosses. I do know you need to beat Rashanan to get to these 2 though. So that might be the throttle, might be the bottleneck. But Nexus Princess, some of the mechanics there, it was rough on heroic. It's going to be insane to see on mythic difficulty.
Yeah, usually like the beginning is not too bad. But then we had like Shadowlands where we had what's his face before the jailer, right? We had Anduin, who was like a real gatekeeper for that one, and he was like, and he should have been. He felt like a final raid boss at that time. So hopefully some of these are pretty cool. Like I think like the Bloodbound horror is probably going to be like the mythic one, because I think it's going to be like the most. How do I put this? Like the one that's underestimated the most, probably. I think will be like the Bloodbound horror.
Interesting. That's kind of it's not a stretch take, but like that's the thing that makes this a lot of fun, because when we're not going to know what the mythic mechanics fully entail until we get to mythic, when we have these people. And like at that point, you've got maybe 20, 30 people even seeing these bosses. And it's the first time they're being touched, first time they're being seen. Blizzard keeps that stuff deliberately secret. They don't test it. They play with some ideas. They don't tell you numbers. They're famously bad sometimes with like bugs, or famously bad with like, this boss is unbeatable. I know Ian Hazakosis was one of the first players to like get to Cthulhu in vanilla when AQ40 released, and he was able to mathematically figure out that Cthulhu was impossible to do with the gear available and the amount of DPS and time it took. before Cthulhu would kill you. And like those are things that have been happening for the last 20 years of WoW in these raids, etc. And like between different mechanics, between bugs, between different situations, and like etc. That's another part that makes this so exciting. So yeah, maybe Bloodbound Horror is going to be the throttle check. Looking at the mechanics that we've seen in Heroic so far, it does gum up a lot of pugs. It does gum up a lot of LFRs that I've seen so far. Who knows what it's going to end up doing with the big laser beam and just like the skill check or DPS check that's going to need to happen there.
Hey, Billy here. Wanted to take a quick minute to let you know a few different things. If you enjoyed the video so far, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps us out and it tells the algorithm to share it with more people. You can find the Esports Meta live every week on Twitch and YouTube. It's where we film the podcast or hang out, play games, and chat. If social media is more your vibe, check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, or Twitter if you use Threads. Does anybody use Threads? This is a video game community that's excited to talk about esports, so jump into the conversation. Of course, you can find more videos like this here on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button right there or there. Thanks for watching, and let's get back to the show.
That one has the unseen realm, which is why I'm saying that. It's because it's a thing that people have to go into, and it's starting to give me like, what is it? Oh my God, what the hell is it called? Remember in Uldor?
Okay.
Uldor. There we go. I said it properly now. Right? Uldor.
Champion.
Yeah, right. Remember in that one, there was no lights, right?
Yeah. The what's his face? Yogg for no lights, right?
Yeah, Yogg. Like, dude, it's giving me like I'm having like thoughts of like it's gonna have something silly like that, like some old god stuff.
But would they be doing that? Would they be doing that for a second boss in a raid? Maybe on Mythic, it might. Yeah, I think that's something they'd maybe save for the penultimate or the final boss.
I think we're gonna have enough void nonsense that's like going on. So I think they can like litter it through like everything and like start hinting at it. Like maybe there's 4 raids, right? 4 full raid tiers. Who knows? And we have like a bunch of different like Cthulhu people. But the other thing that you said that I want to talk about, yeah, I'm gonna say it right here, bro. And this is no disrespect. Yeah, Ian, I love that stat, right? Like I love the stat that this man like did the math. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say everybody who played World of Warcraft originally fucking sucked, me included. And I was in next, so I don't know his numbers were fucking wrong. Like no joke, dude. Like they were definitely wrong because nobody was playing feral cats using filling up their whole inventory with fucking maces. Like, dude, I've been cursing so much on this one. It's probably because I'm sleepy. But right. That's like my point being is I would love to see that actual part of the game again, but like actually being played instead of like this patched 1.2 nonsense. Give me some of that really gritty stuff that people said they couldn't beat back in the day.
I don't know, man. I think you're not off base with everybody went into Molten Core with just greens. People didn't know how to play. They're building the specs on what they thought and felt was good. And a 40-man raid, most of the time, you had maybe about 10 to 15 people actually doing the work while the other 20 or 25 just kind of was there. They were just bodies to soak damage.
Or maybe a priest healer, a friend who was sleeping all the time as a paladin healer, right? And a person who played a druid who was always at work and had his little brother play as druid. Maybe raids were carried by that guy, that priest. Maybe a 40-man was carried by one person, bro. So like,
I don't know who you're talking about. I just don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know his name. I just know I played with him. Anyway.
But in that way too, just to push back a little bit, Ian Hazzikostas was a part of Elitist Jerks. Elitist Jerks was the premier top tier. And it's not to say that, we didn't know what we were doing back then. There was definitely that degree, but they were the ones who knew what was happening, what they were intending to do, how they were trying to play much more than the rest of the population. Even back when they didn't know what to do, they were still like top of the top on that.
Sure.
And Blizzard didn't. Blizzard didn't know what they were doing either. But either way, yeah, it's only progressed further, and we're definitely stronger. It's definitely somewhere around Cataclysm, the raids definitely stepped up and actually got a lot more difficult, a lot more thoughtful and thorough. Not to say the ones before were garbage.
Billy's exiting us now. We're dipping out. I'll disagree with Billy because Cataclysm was one of the easiest raids in the world until they patched Hunters. Okay, like I hit one button. All right, like I'm not even joking. I hit one button. I'm
saying like as far as mechanics, as far as that somewhere around there.
I wasn't doing anything. I was hitting one button, bro. I was hitting steady shot, man. Like I remember it.
And you're the class that should be doing stuff. Like you're even as a pet class or just like as a marksman hunter, you should be the one running around doing all the stuff and the mechanics. Nope. But like that was around the time when they started designing bosses differently. They took bigger swings with some of the, They took bigger swings with some of the bosses like Deathwing, those phases, etc. And some were like hits and others were kind of like blah. But like that's when they started looking at it differently. It wasn't a lot like as much tank and spank, debuff, soak kind of things. There's a little bit more complication and complexity to it. And that's something I'm sure we're seeing already. We're in Heroic Week. And this is, kind of to your point of Bloodbound Horror being the one that's going to throttle. I think Sikran is going to be the one in Mythic, the third boss of this raid. I think they're going to be the one that actually, because some of the mechanics, the debuff, etc. Other than that, I think Blood Twister might be with the infestation mechanic. You basically you drag this big worm around. People get debuffs, they explode. The debuffs need to pop on eggs. The eggs release certain types of mobs that you have to control and then beat. And then one of the type of mobs that just comes out with that is a group of little parasites that will infest players with a debuff and then spread. So like that already seems like a complicated dance. It'd be interesting to see how it continues in Mythic. Same with like a Sikran. So it'd be cool to see, and like I'm really looking forward to how this goes. But I do want to speak to, cause we're talking a lot of WoW history here. I want to speak to the history right now with the Race to World First, coming out of the previous Race to World First, a Midrisil. Basically, I want to just highlight the competition here. Echo won a Midrisil in the Race to World First in Dragonflight. The last race to World First in Dragonflight. It's the last raid in Dragonflight. Banger of a raid. Some people would say some of the top raids ever made out there. Really good coming out of it. And Echo ended up squeaking out the win over Team Liquid. And it was a matter of like 8% difference, something like that. There was like that close on the final boss, and it stretched that pull and stretched that, not the pull, the push that each team and organization was able to make. Nick, we talked about this a little bit before. Like, how can you hype this current fight up by looking through this old battle?
I'll be honest with you. No, like this one's a lot different, man. We have hero talents in this one. Like I think that there's a lot like we're still gonna have some of the great things, but the thing that makes like a lot of the Race to World First like watchable and unique for me is I'm really interested how far Echo took the 26th position. Or the 21st, like what are these raids at again? Because like I can't even like keep it straight. Like, but like that extra man of like Max just like being the shot caller and everything like that. Like that's like the real hype, and like how good is their shot caller and stuff like that. Besides that, man, like I can't get us hyped really on it, man. Because like you don't know what you're gonna see. Like we really don't know how hard or easy these bosses are gonna be, and yeah. It's the Race to World First really like I don't want to say it's like the same thing. Like, what you're going to get, which is like, you're going to get bosses, you're going to get like really interesting stuff. And as long as the visuals are not as cluttered as they've been in past expansions, like it's going to be a really watchable, fun experience. I wish they had a gold count.
I do. Yeah, we need that gold count. Team Liquid, Team Echo, Method. We got to see that gold count. Let us know how much you're spent already. Maybe give us an update on Tuesday when Mythic's launch, basically. Mythic rating launches. Whatever it is, we want to know. But you're right. I guess that's a fair point. But that consistency is also, I think, why this makes it a great event. We're going to be racing. We know what teams are competing. This is a kind of event where random teams can compete. You get your best bros, best 20 bros come through and just like knock this out and but it is one of those sweaty gamer moments where you don't sleep for 4 days kind of thing. And like, it's a marathon, not a sprint kind of thing. But you're right in that we don't know what we're going to see until we see it. Already though, I can speak for some things, like I can speak for some numbers. Let's go some world first already. And this is only through the heroic portion of this raid. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit more so we can see the heroic version of this raid. The guilds that have finished heroic, the 8 of 8, the first one to do it, Last Exile, Blue Shoe, Fighting Penguins, Awkward, North Star, Twitch Prime. Some of these are names you haven't seen because the methods, the echoes, the Team Liquids, the ones that you normally see in the Mythic World First. That's their race, World First Mythic. They're gearing up. They're doing splits. They're not focused on just nailing and finalizing the bosses here. They're just trying to get the gear. So we already know this is, what we're seeing. We've had 1,600 guilds finish the first boss, 355 second, 444. And like, this one's kind of an interesting one. You have 1,200 people have finished the fourth boss, but only 258 have finished the fifth boss here. They've done 5 of 8. So I think that might be the difference of what's it called, of Nexus Princess and that Brood Lord, 5 and 6 here. So that might be a huge deal. Yeah. And then as you get right, number 2 spot showing off. And then to look at just like kind of like in perspective, for as far as the last here, guilds that have done 8 of 8, it's only been 24 guilds that have full cleared heroic. So like, big number drop means that last boss is a doozy, going from 340 people down to only 24 guilds. Something we know, something we can kind of start speculate from the heroic side of things. Also from the heroic side of things, we could take a look at DPS numbers. It might be a little bit hard to see on your screen because this is a moving, sort of a live animated, chart. But, just to kind of read it out, over the last 2 weeks, 2 weeks of doing this raid, we could see of all bosses what damage has been doing. A rough tier list. Take this with a grain of salt because this is just the initial findings in this raid. This is just the initial playing out, how people are figuring out. And this is all the different bosses. So AoE bosses, patchwork bosses, single target bosses. But Fury Warrior is coming out on top by a decent margin. 120 to 115. So like a 5-point differential here over Enhancement Shamans. Arcane Mage, close third. Outlaw Rogue, bring this out top 4. Then we have Ret Pally, Windwalker Monk, Marksman Hunter, Frost DK, Beastmaster Hunter, and Elemental Shaman as our top 10 there. Nick, are you surprised quickly? I know this is a little bit of hard of a graph. Are you surprised by this initial top 10 of numbers?
No, like, not really. Like, I'm not surprised by the top, and I'm not surprised by the very bottom. Like, it's cyclical, right? Like, World of Warcraft in general, by the first patch, Fire is a very gear reliant spec. So by, in the beginning, it doesn't do very good, and by the end of the expansion, it's lighting people's houses on fire through the internet. But Fury Warrior is warriors are the best class in this game. I say it all the time. They're the best designed class in the game. People can argue about it all you want, but you probably never played a warrior. I've played every class in this game. Not at high levels, not at low levels. I've across the board, I've played a lot of these classes, a lot of specs, and warrior is the best for flow, fantasy, and everything like that. So it makes sense. They're just well designed, and they're very they're figured out. Warriors are figured out, right. So it's very easy for them to slot into these positions where they're doing really good DPS because they don't have to be worked on too much.
Right. It's one of those classes that are the most consistent. Them and mages. I know rogues have taken a bit of a hit with this when people are talking in the pre-patch, but we have outlaw rogue here. Maybe that's the RNG of that, where you're rolling well into the buffs etc., and through all bosses. But let's take a look specifically at like the bosses. You know, we'll start with single target with Olgrax. Olgrax is an interesting one where, you know, it is a single target. You have to do some dances as far as running away from him sucking you, running away from some webs and stucks, and then killing some ads and then feeding those ads to him because he hungers. But this is a single target boss predominantly, and at the top here we're seeing BM Hunters take the cake, lead the pack here in Heroic so far, Outlawed Rogues taking that, then Enhanced Shamans, then Fury Warriors. So
not by much, right?
Not by too much, but it's still like a 5,000 point difference, like a 5,000 DPS difference, roughly, maybe 50,000. I'm sorry, 50,000 DPS difference. But like in that way too, Fury, we've seen the power be in those AoE cleave sort of moments. And this is definitely not a super duper cleave. It's like moments of cleave kind of match.
Yeah, because like the kit for them, like their rotation in general involves AoE even on single target. Like you just like, oh, you know, I'll just do this real quick. You know, like I got nothing else to do. So. Right.
And like the you know, Arcane Mage is still up there. There's a single target. They do have some decent cleave, but they're like not too far behind the Ellie Shaman and the Fairy Warrior. On the bottom of the pack here, Shadow Priests haven't been looking too good. Assassin Rogues, Feral Druids, Fire Mages. Fire Mages there at the bottom again. I think that's gonna be a consistent thing we're gonna see as Fire Mages are kind of suffering, and it might be because of the gearing, like you said, but it could also be because of their spec tree, like people saying it's kind of not really fluid enough.
They're very high crit, like usually play styles. Like usually a lot of the gear involves crit, and early in expansion, they're not going to be like, let's just give them a lot of crit. Let's do it. It's just not going to be the case, enough. You know?
Yeah. All right. So let's move us into like another boss. I'm going to pick
the Blood Hunter.
Let's do Silken Court because I think that's an AoE one, and we can see how that changes things a little bit. I believe this is an AoE fight. We could double check that in a second, but Enhancement Shaman, Outlaw Rogue, Affliction Warlock, and then Frosty Decay. I think this is an AoE / like two main, like a council fight. So like that would make sense to why the Affliction Lock is up there. You're able to put dots on two different targets and just like boil them up easy.
Yeah, Windwalker monks are doing so. There's a pretty spicy thing with their with some of their hero talents right now, where basically doing like a lot of AoE damage to like 8 targets. It's very powerful right now. It's cool. But yeah,
I'm gonna bring us to a fight that I know is AoE, Brood Twister. That's the one where I was saying with the eggs, the mechanic where you have to like
you just got a real body.
All right, I'm gonna bring this over to Brood Twister Ovinox, where. You know, that's one that I know is predominantly AoE. That's the one with the mechanics of the eggs where you get a debuff that pops and then you need to pop eggs and that unleashes more mobs to the fight. So you need to control the mobs, control the fight. And far and away, Fury Warrior on top here by a large sum, at least in the first findings. We're talking about 250,000 DPS difference between first and second here. Fury Warrior and Outlaw Rogue. Then Arcane Mage is a number 3, which I'm a little bit surprised at, but I guess it makes sense with their cleave ability, Arcane Barrage. You know, Assassin Rogue's also getting a big jump up and step up into the number 4 spot for this boss. And we're going to finish out the top 5 with Marksman Hunters. There. So like this being more of an AoE fight, we're kind of seeing who's got more of a strong AoE presence. But looking at this too, I think Fury Warrior is going to be getting the banhammer, the nerf bat soon because of how much of a difference in AoE fights, man.
No, they're just like, bro, this is the first expansion. It's Warriors, man. I mean, it's not the first expansion. It's the first raid tier. Like this always happened. Like Warriors are strong as hell on a regular basis, bro. That's why they're still the best. Like they're always really good tanks. Like they're always really good damage dealers.
I hear you on that. But like realistically too, like we looked at a single target fight and now here we're looking at like an AoE fight. Like this is too much. They were like neck and neck in single target and like doing top 4 stuff in single target. But here they are like just 250,000 damage more than the next one in AoE. Like this is.
Yeah, you're concentrating on the wrong thing. the wrong thing.
This is not
like,
okay. Blizzard's gonna see this and they're gonna tweak it.
They're gonna, you know what they're gonna do? What they're gonna end up doing is making rogues do the most damage in the game in PvE, which means that they're just gonna make the game miserable for everyone who plays PvE and PvP. Okay, like, so no one really ever has a problem with the warrior doing like crazy damage early on. Like they get one good weapon, they have, you know, rage, so they're fine. They're always fine, dude. They end up leveling out really, really easily in the next raid tier. Let them have some time to shine, because the mages and the people who are like, all those other classes need so much more gear. Hunters need more gear. Mages need more gear. Rogues definitely need more gear. They can't, like, you know, like, like warriors just don't need that much, dude. They survive on bare bones. They're warriors.
But like, that's where I would argue push back, because vanilla, in like the old style vanilla BC and Wrath, warriors were absolutely gear dependent. They were weapon dependent, etc. They, you know, getting Shadowmourne was just a leaps and bound. Otherwise, they were trash in that expansion. And like seeing the relived classic version live up to exactly the same thing. This is the last boss. Here's the graph for the last boss, Queen Anseract. This, I don't know what the fight entails for this one. I haven't seen it yet. I've read a couple things, but I'm not entirely sure. Fury Warriors are, again, 250,000 more than the next highest DPS here. And like, this is, of course, only 24 guilds have finished this, so this is a very small sample size. It's not really giving you a great amount, a great visualization on what to expect. At least the other ones were a couple hundred. The first boss was 1,200 raids, 1,300 raids. This is only 24 guilds. This is going to incentivize guilds to take like 14 Fury Warriors and 14 augmentation evokers. Like, that's what this is telling me. And like, that's what, you know, it's not going to be that hyperbolic, but like, that's what this is telling me, man. So like, the pushback is, I've always thought of warriors as being gear dependent, and here they are just cleaving like champions, which is what they do, it's supposed to do. But like, this gap is 2 gap.
I mean, think about it logically, man. If a guy doesn't know how to cast Fireball, but the other guy over there has a stick and he knows how to use the stick, he's going to do more damage. Like, that's it. That's just the way it's going to go. But like, I get the fear that you have in general of them taking over too much of the thing, but like, it's Fury, bro. Like, it's Fury. Like, what do you mean?
Get it.
Like,
you're a Fury
like,
sympathizer. That's fine. That's all right. I'm not
they
saying
don't
we
do
gotta,
anything besides this, is what I'm saying, bro. Like, they don't do anything. Like, they don't have, like, this is all they got, is what I'm saying. You take this away from them, and like, you gotta worry on your hands. This is what you got.
Some
like,
sad warriors. It's a tough thing to be, I think, and like, it's only the first. We'll see how it plans out in Mythic. Maybe they don't have the survivability with the numbers, but I think with Bloodthirst they're able to. So that might be a crazy part about this and what to expect. What I do want to bring us into is a little bit of a what's it called? I want to demonstrate. Nick's disappeared completely. Let's see if we can get him back to his tiny screen. But I guess in this way, I'm going to monologue. We're going to run a game. We got it loaded. Let me make sure we're in a... Yeah, that's good. All right. So this is a web simulation of the raids. It's been made by Tactical Air Horse. They've been making these for every raid tier based on the heroic version mechanics since Shadowlands, the first raid tier, the vampire raid in there. And this, it's a blast. Hopefully the sound doesn't blow us out. But here's a little bit of the intro. You want to move around. Do the thing, bring the volume down a little bit. There we go. And then let's get to it and hit play. So here you could choose any of the bosses except for the last boss and basically play through the mechanics here. So I'm going to pick the first boss. We're going to play through it real quick to kind of give you an example. So this is a place where you can work on your mechanics, move around. You have to dodge the webs, shoot the boss, do damage, and then you have to use the poison to clear the webs. So it's essentially teaching me all of the mechanics of the game as I'm doing damage to the boss as I'm playing it. He's gonna get me. He does a big voidy thing. Gotta dodge and avoid the dash and then kill ads.
This is one of the visuals is one of the things that like World of Warcraft, like it does need to work on when it comes to like, compared to like even Final Fantasy. Like it doesn't look this distinct when you like in general when you watch like the raids and stuff like that. You know, it's somewhat difficult to figure out what's going on sometimes.
Right, and like this is one of those tools that a part of the community has made that hopefully helps all those. And like as you see, it's a way to play through it and get used to the mechanics of the raid. So back to menu. Wanted to share that little tidbit as we go into the full race to world first. If any of those people out there watching want to check out maybe some mechanics, some of the struggles before they go into it themselves, you know. I know we've talked about that too. A lot of this can create more anxiety and fear of performance, etc. All right, Nick, at that point, I'm pretty sure we've got most of what we wanted to talk through and talk out. Anything else you want to touch on as we wrap up the Race to the World first here?
Yeah. Aliens.
Whoa. Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Go on.
I don't have anything. Yeah, you know. Now the only thing that I am excited to find out if this Linkin Park song is real. That's the only thing I have to end on.
I guess I do want to end on something else with the Race to the World first, is that recently it was announced by NetEase that if a Chinese guild wins Race to the World first, they'll be winning 1 million yen. Right? And I love the comment section here where it's ni hao, we are Chinese guild Liquid. Thought that was led by Maximum. I'm a little, you know, frustrated at the qualifier here as far as needing to be a Chinese guild, but can understand why, etc. But I gotta love the comments, having fun here down the bottom. Love to see this. I don't think traditionally we've seen a Chinese guild take place in this.
And we won't.
You know, maybe I know there's been some competition around it. There's been some competitive nature with that. But they kind of keep the brackets separately. They're not really disclosing like, you know, a transparency or information. So generally speaking, the big three, it's going to be Echo, Method, and Liquid pushing through. And then we'll have a handful of familiar faces and other wildcard dark horse guilds that come through that are able to do this. But I want to leave us on that note too.
Hold on. Do you know how much 1 million yen is?
How much?
Is it yen? No, it's not yen, right? You said yen. Why'd you say yen?
Well, how much is that? What is that symbol?
It's not yen, dude. Yen is Japanese, you jackass. It's won, right?
Won. 1 million
no,
won.
Won is Korean. Won is Korean, bro.
What are we doing here, Nick? Come on.
You're fucking me up because you didn't like.
Dude.
It's yuan, bro.
Yuan. Sorry.
Yeah, my God,
1 million
damn.
yuan.
It's a lot better than yen for sure, bro. You went from $7,000 to like $140,000.
Listen here, Nick. We would have filmed this on Tuesday. Would have been well prepared, but somebody's internet had to go out on Tuesday, and now we're having internet problems on this side. Like, all right, give us a break here, Nick.
Yeah, but no, it's $141,000. Like, so okay. It is a relatively decent amount of money for someone to try to get. You know, instead of $7,000. Yeah,
even 50 grand would be pretty nice for winning this. But yeah, the qualifier for just being a Chinese guild winning the race feels bad, man. But okay, understanding. You know, maybe trying to push competition in that way, etc. We'll see how it goes. My bet, Nick. Actually, I'm gonna just say I think Echo's got something to prove. And they might want to double dip on this one. They've been pretty strong in the PvP aspect of it, in the Mythic Dungeon invitationals. So I think Echo is going to actually continue that streak and push into this. Liquid's been looking nice, though. I've been watching Max as well and a lot of their prep and etc. But if you had to pick a team to pull out on this one as we wrap up. Who do you think's taking first place? Who's winning the race to the world first?
Oh, Team Liquid. No, it's gonna be. I would say Team Liquid, right? Like that's the team that I'm rooting for, that I want to have win. Method can like just go home. Like, leave your toys here. Just leave. That's like that's all. Like, I've been that way since like, you know, for what, 2 years now. Like, just I'm off Team Method. I don't care. I don't want to hear about him anymore. I'm good. I'm off of it. And then Echo, hopefully Echo's just second place, right? First and second. And I'm hoping that it's longer than, you know, 5 minutes, longer than 10 minutes. Like I actually, because I don't actually consider that to be like too much. Not that it's like poor sport about it, but I don't think it's like it's not really a devastating defeat. Like, I think they're both like, basically it's like beating the boss at the same time, because like how everything goes, just like timing, like time zones, this, that, and the third. Like, I think that there's just, you know, we could just leave it at 8 minutes. It's like whatever, when they've been doing this for 12 days, right? Like it's actually like nothing as far as the percentage is concerned. So I do want a little bit more time in between, like actually the winner besides the second place. Damn, I can't talk.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes, because we'll also see poll counters and who can make it there first. Least amount of polls, most amount of polls, kind of doesn't matter as long as you down the boss first. And definitely a lot happening. Definitely a lot to look at. Be interesting with it. In that way, Nick, 2 questions as final things, wrapping this. Which class tops DPS charts as an overall? Are we going to stick with the Fury Warrior, or you think something else they're going to get nerfed and something else is going to kind of rise to the top, or be able to perform better in Mythic raid tier? And second one is, which boss is going to be the bottleneck? Do you think it's going to be just the last boss fight, or you think it's going to be genuinely another boss?
So here's what I'll say. No, I don't think Fury Warrior is going to be the best DPS in Mythic. I think that it's just normal difficulty might as well not be a raid tier. I think heroic difficulty is pretty average as far as difficulty is concerned, and Mythic is kind of cracked, and there's really like no in between. So I think that's why you see Fury Warriors being like higher than others. Usually what happens is melee is super punished on a regular basis on any sort of raid boss for the most part. They're usually extremely punished. So it would be pretty surprising in Mythic if throughout the whole raid tier warriors stayed, like melee stayed, which means that like they just don't bring range anymore. Like they can just smush through it. That doesn't really make any sense from a design perspective. So I doubt we'll see warriors really maintaining a full spot being melee. Okay. I say melee, warriors, not melee, whatever.
Yeah. Well, okay, then the last kind of prediction. I kind of agree with that insight, and then I would say I think the Nexus Princess is going to be the bottleneck throttle. I think that Mythic version is going to just throw all the balls to the wall. And so I wanted to know if you had any predictions as far as that. Is it going to be a Queen Anserac last battle, or is it going to be like a 5th, 6th fight?
No, I think it's going to be 2. I think it's going to be the Bloodhound. Okay.
Interesting. Very interesting. Very quick wall. We'll see how that plays out. This all starts officially on Tuesday, but you got to check out their streams live. They're doing splits, gearing up on heroics and delves. They're asking their community to be a part of their splits. They are kicking out people who underperform or sabotage. So if you're looking to have some fun trolling, it's not going to last very long. But either way, check that all out on their official Twitter. It's not Twitters. Their official Twitches. They're probably on their Twitters as well. Their YouTube channels, etc. And check back with us next week as we keep you updated on the official launch of the Mythic raids and see how those kill counts go. See who gets there fast and first. All right.